by the last couple months, it was over. And so, anyway, micro-targeting is becoming so key. It can't be a bunch of people sitting around an ad agency saying what's the best overall message. It's a very specific message. And the other big change why micro-targeting is so important now is, you know, if each of you went through and put down how do you think you get most of your information, you know, it could be social media, it could be Comedy Central. I mean, there are going to be 8 million answers to that. You got to remember, some of the guys who are still doing political campaigns were doing this where 95% of their people got their information from 3 television stations. I mean, it was much simpler then. One message for everyone. Let's see if we win. You know, there's so many ways to segment now. And let me say, even though there was a little of this, that election in 04 was actually the highest turnout percentage since 1968. So there was a lot more of get people to vote. And you could do the same model for the Kerry side. I mean, they barely fell short, but they were just a little behind on the micro-targeting. Now, the other thing I'll tell you need to do in stats is you define your universe in cases like this. My partner, we have a bipartisan team when we do corporate work. He actually ran Bill Clinton's re-election TV in Ohio. So he's all about TV and reaching demographic groups. He doesn't put names on a piece of paper like I do. He says, hey, we've got women 25 to 40 seem to be our swing vote, or men, you know, depending on what the issue is, age groups. So he's talking generalities. In 2000, I put together the effort to kind of target Catholics. My job was find all the Catholic names, find all the social conservative names, get them out for Bush. So there we targeted 14 million people. That was our micro-targeting in the end. Last year, we actually sent people door to door, knocked on doors of 171,000 targeted voters. And this is the thing, you talk about how much money you're going to spend, your even more valuable commodity is how much time is it going to take to physically knock on doors? Because believe it or not, as old-fashioned as door knocking sounds, it's coming back to that because we're all getting so good at screening out messages. You know, once you've crossed into satellite radio, you're not getting the local political ads. Once you know all these thresholds, often the only way to get back to that voter you've targeted is to go knock on their door. So you better knock on the right doors. I mean, if you're wasting the time of 100 people you've got out there, yeah, that's even worse than wasting money. I actually did Romney's Wyoming campaign. There, I went through all the numbers from everyone who lived in Wyoming. There were only 1,400 people who'd ever been to a political meeting of any kind. This thing was decided by a convention. People had decided they were going to go drive and spend a day voting. How many of your friends want to do that? How many would say, hey, yeah, I'll drive a couple hours, I'll spend 6, 8 hours, whatever it takes, then I'll drive home. Very small universe. You define your universe. We had 1,400 people. I ran the whole campaign on Google Docs. That was literally it. It was a presidential state campaign on Google Docs. There was no mail. There was no anything else. We were out visiting people, calling them, talking to them, tracking them down. And there's no cell phone coverage in Wyoming, by the way. So when I say calling, please don't call any of these Wyoming people. These are real people. So I just wanted to give you a sense. And then some of the other things we do are zoning battles. You go into any community and there are growth issues. There's, okay, if the new big box store comes in, that's going to add tax revenue, money for our schools, and that's the reasons you want growth. Then there are other people who identify, hey, it's going to be an extra half hour for me to get to work every day, extra half hour back. This is a quality of life issue. So if we're going in, say, trying to stop a Walmart from going into a small town, a 2-lane road, for example, you got to segment, you got to micro-target which people are on our side, because there what you're trying to do is get 200 people in a room for a zoning hearing. So you can see how micro-targeting plays out, but the universes are so different, but the same basic tactics apply. So flipping on to the next one. Obviously, just want to say success in sports isn't always as easy as politics. I have gotten the comment a lot that, wow, so many of you political gurus are really into sports stats too. And it's real funny because often we're from completely different parties, and then you get together and you want to talk about basketball stats, and who cares about whether or not people have jobs or what the best policy is? We got to win. So actually, I had one friend who went to Florida who did thankfully tell me after their second championship and being obnoxious for 2 weeks, I just realized my life's actually not any better since the Gators won. Thank you. But my life will be better if Marquette wins the title again. But anyway, success. You got to define success. Sometimes it's hard to define. And for any of you who watch the old Major Leagues movie during Little Happier Times for Charlie, the goal there was to lose games. I mean, the goal was, and I don't remember the exact plot, but somehow they'd have so little attendance or so few wins, something happened. It was one of those plots that they came up with. So I guess the first question is, hey, I'm going to propose to you the Pirates are a successful organization. Laughable on the face of it. Only major league team in any sport to have 17 straight losing seasons. I know they're a game above 500 now. Maybe it'll end. But I'm going to propose that they're achieving their goals. Remember, first we define our goals. Their goals are not about figuring out runs and wins. Now, they want to win. That's why they're not like the Indians. Of course, it's what's filmed at County Stadium. So, who wanted to lose. They're happy enough to win. It's just not their end goal. And so their end goal was they built a very nice stadium. They lined up $176 million in public funding for PNC Stadium. They actually came in under budget. It's the only stadium I know of that's come in under budget, meaning they only spent $40 million. There's still some people mad at Pittsburgh, something that's worthwhile, but the team only spent $40 million. Out of there, their goal was we have to stay below $50 million a year in salaries. We have got to be the lowest or next to lowest salary payroll. One, we can make money within that model. We can at least break even. And when you take that, we'll also be getting the luxury tax because the Yankees can't stop spending. We actually get a check at the beginning of the year for $19 million, whatever it is. We know we've made money. We run it even the rest of the year. Every year they make $15 million, $20 million. The company that owns them runs several other companies. Not them losing money. No, not picking fun at them. Everyone's losing money right now. But this is their business that makes money. And if they win, great. They're happy. But it's just not the end goal. So we've got to define the end goal. And I'd say they've been successful. They've made money since luxury tax came in, even though they haven't won a lot of games. So we go on to the next one. This just, y'all may have already been through luxury tax some, but I just can't help picking on the Yankees since everyone hates them or loves them. I mean, they've paid $192 million of the luxury tax so far. The others combined have paid $17 million. So basically, the Yankees pay the Pirates and the Royals every year to play baseball. But your priority on top of that. Now, this is one of the favorite headlines that any of us little stat freaks have had ever. The New York Times came out this year with an article saying meteorologists. I'm sorry, it wasn't their actual headline. I'm interpreting. Meteorologist saves Butler's opening season. The headline is actually on the next screen, but it'll be meteorologist becomes go-to guy for coaches. And this is Ken Pomeroy sitting there on his little computer, and he starts the article saying the day after Butler won the semifinal game last year, not this year, their coach ran in, popped up www.kenpom.com, which those of us in stats love. That's the Bible. And started figuring out how he could beat Duke based on a web page by a guy who knows nothing about basketball and just literally is a great stats guy. So, so this was really exciting. And what he basically came up with this year was really interesting. Old Dominion was a better team than Butler. They drew them in the opening round. Old Dominion beat VCU, the Final Four team, twice in the closing weeks of the season. They were a great team. They had a guy, Kent Bazemore, Defensive Player of the Year, was on a roll. Said 58% of his shots coming into that game. And if it sounds like I'm obsessing on this a little bit, it's because through a formula I put together a great cheat sheet for brackets. And I was in first place through 3 rounds, and everyone was emailing me, thanking me, and telling me how much money they were going to win. The only problem is, because ODU is better than Butler, I had ODU beating Butler in the opening round. So every round we went on and Butler kept winning, my guys kept dropping, and so none of them actually won. They still were top 10%. But the reason Butler stopped them is the Saber Matrix and the video side of this, they analyze, and I've seen this, it's amazing. You basically pick a spot on the floor and see, I want to see every shot a player's taken in these 4 square feet, and you watch them all with the stats underneath it. It's amazing stuff. But what they basically saw is Bazemore's a left-hander. When any of you play basketball even over at the gym know, if you're up against a lefty, you basically change your whole defense. You get on his left side, you make him dribble right-handed. Well, even though he's left-handed, Bazemore was actually a much better dribble with his right hand. 75% of the time all year, his first step was right. He dribbled right-handed. Well, Butler set up their whole defense, pretend he's a right-hander, you play him on that side, you do not let him dribble right-handed. This guy's been tearing it up, does not hit a field goal during the game. Tries 3 bad shots, misses them all. They, in essence, through Saber Matrix, shut down this guy, beat him by 2 points, but he'll be back for another year, and by now he's read the New York Times article. I mean, he'll learn to go left. But basically, this kind of stats, and again, stats put together by geeks who never played basketball. but they were able to shut them down, and the Butler coaches picked up on it. So you can see Sabermetrics getting the wins. So anyway, that was the first big win. Flipping on to the next one. This is just the actual New York Times article. Meteorologist becomes a go-to guy. Obviously, won't read all that for you, but it just runs through. Coach K's had Ken Pomeroy on his radio show with him. I mean, he's the guy right now who simplifies this thing for the masses. And going on to the next one. Okay. The one other thing I just want to throw in basketball, you do have to know in different environments what factors to figure in. Two unique things you need to know in basketball versus baseball. One is the possessions, which Ken Pomeroy really came up with. In baseball, you've always got 27 outs. That's your universe. I've got 27 outs to score as many runs as I can, provided no extra innings. Possessions are a big deal in basketball. You can have a very exciting offense, like the one here, that people enjoy watching, or you can go up to Madison and watch a team walk the ball down the court 50 times a game, and then the game's over and everyone's bored and leaves. Okay, that's low possession game. Very boring, win or lose. I think they scored 15 points. That one was at Penn State. Anyway, but you need to have this as a frame of reference because, unfortunately, and this kills me while I try to rake on our buddies down the road, when I came up with my basketball formulas to determine what % of points every player in the country added to his team and ran the returning players, Kimball Walker was number 2, and guy from Madison was number 1. Just killed me. I didn't even put it in print. But the point was, because so few points are being scored and their games are so boring, I just want to stress that once again, even scoring several points is good because it only takes 40 points to win when you're playing Penn State. So if you can score 15, that's a lot. As opposed to exciting Big East, back and forth, 15's good. But so anyway, so you've got to know that context because it's about percentage of points scored, percentage of points increased versus just the raw number. Well, I added 3 points. Well, is that a big deal or is this a game where a lot of points are scored? Anyway, probably. And really there were 2 breakthroughs on here. I give Ken Pomeroy credit. There was actually a guy in the 80s, an old VCU Rams team that was unknown named J.D. Barnett. He actually took an obscure team, and the stat he would drill his players on every game is how many points did we score per trip down the court. So there actually is something in the archives. And this team suddenly, with no talent, I mean no elite players, was number 11 in the country and got a 2 seed. They got beat in the tournament in the second round, I think. And what you saw is the players, instead of started thinking, I've got to score 20 today, started thinking, oh, we only average 0.9 per trip. You see how it makes you think like a team, and you start to, so even though it was very rudimentary, he actually had that. Pomeroy actually started his whole page because they kept saying out West Air Force had the best defense in the country. And he did cut on Little TV and said, these guys don't look very good. Are they really the best? He did the math and realized, no, their offense was just kind of Wisconsin pace. So there were so few trips down the court, they were giving up few points, but they were actually giving up points pretty regularly once the other team had the ball. So anyway, so we're going to the next one here. And the other thing in basketball is a little different than baseball, just as examples. There's a law of diminishing returns, and this is going to apply if you get into business or politics or anything else. The first 5 times I give you a message, try to design to convince you my candidate's the right one, it's making a big impression. You're at least thinking about it. I mean, if you're kind of in the middle, okay, they keep having an impact, but the 2,000th time you've heard something, not as effective as the 5th time. By that time, okay, I think I got it. I think I got what you're telling me. I've either bought it or not. We see the same thing in basketball a little bit. The percent of possessions a player has will determine how many points he's worth to a team. And I took Kobe Bryant as the example, and this was out of Ken Pomeroy's book. When Kobe handles the ball 15% of the time that the Lakers have it, you'll see these games where he just passes a lot. He's generally worth about 1.25 points per time he handles the ball. When he starts taking about a quarter of the time, normal game, he's still worth 1.2. I mean, phenomenal. The guy, not a Kobe fan, obviously I'm a D-Wade fan, but Kobe, phenomenal. If he starts having to take the ball almost 1 and 3 times down the court, he's really barely above average. 1.0 is normal. So if Kobe just starts having to take over and almost every time he's having to do everything, he gets a little more tired. Defensive attention gets up on him, not spreading the ball around. He's a barely above average player at that rate. And there are games where Kobe takes it almost 40% of the time. He is terrible when he does that. As great as he is, his endurance, just human body doesn't have that much in him. he actually in those games is worth 3/4 of a point per trip down the